Thanks so much for watching the Leveling Up package with the Seattle International Film Festival. My name is Grace Mosqueda, and I'm one of the shorts programmers for SIFF. Really happy that you could join us for the Q&A. We have some special guests here today. Some of our filmmakers are stopping by to chat with us about their films that were just showcased in the package. So we just want to start with a round of intros. And if you all could maybe just share your name, title of your film, the country of your film, and we'll just kind of go from there. Anyone can start, sorry.
Yeah, I can start then. My name is Christian Hoskjell, and I'm from Denmark, and the film is called Young.
My name is Liv Johnson. I'm from the United States, and my film is called Empty Nest.
I'm Lila Hala. I'm Brazilian, and the film is called Menarca.
Hey, my name is Charles Wall. I'm in Canada right now, and I directed the short film called The Moil.
So thanks all again for joining us in this virtual panel. As we know, it's kind of an extra out of the ordinary year for this, but this Q&A will kind of just go along. You know, I want it to be a little conversational, so so hopefully you'll all have time to share about your projects. So maybe if we could start a little bit with the story behind your film, and we'll just kind of go from there. Lila, why don't you start?
Did you say Lila?
Yes, Lila. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I wasn't sure it was to me. So this is thinking about the idea of leveling up. It's a good point to start on how the story began, because we were researching different myths that had to do with the idea of monstrous feminine. And we found out about this myth of the toothed vagina at some point, and we were quite, the other scriptwriter and I, Libia Perez, who has been collaborating with me for a long time already, we were both very shocked with how in different cultures, in different times, this myth has been legitimizing a lot of violence against women. So to fight this idea of a toothed vagina, women were getting a lot of violence through the craziest instruments and rituals. And so through this idea of leveling up, we wanted to use this fear and turn it around and make it become superpowers. So.
Great, thank you. Christian, what about you?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, like the story is about these three girls who ends up who's a bit rough, and they end up doing what do you call, like the attacking a girl at a party because of a rumor. And in general, like the theme of the project, it's about like consequence of your actions. And it's based on, like, I grew up on the countryside of Denmark, and as a teenager, I felt like there was like people did so many crazy things, and some of them were violent, and others were just like trying to push boundaries. And I just thought it was really interesting, like to explore like the boundary between like doing like something that's like pushing the limit to like a youth violence and a youth crime. And yeah, I really wanted to explore that, because I feel like as a teenager, you don't always know what you're doing, and sometimes you're not aware that you're actually like stepping over that boundary.
Awesome, great. Liv, what about yours?
So Empty Nest is about a woman whose only son goes to college, and she finds herself with kind of a hole in her life and is a little bit unsure how to fill that. And that came directly from my own parents. My youngest brother went to college, and I would get the funniest phone calls from them. Like my mom would be saying, "Oh, I just moved rocks around in the backyard," and my dad would be like, "Oh, I just sat in the hot tub." End of sentence. And it was pretty sweet and pretty funny. So I just thought it would be kind of like a love letter to them a little bit, to imagine what was going on in that house. It's mostly about the mom kind of searching for purpose. I think women get really pigeonholed into the role of a mother oftentimes, and we forget that they're a complete person, who might be kind of messy and complicated in a lot of ways. And I really think that's what the character in Empty Nest shows. Yeah, so it's a fun short piece that kind of just shows what's going to go on in a house with parents but without kids.
Great. And Charles?
Yeah, the idea to make the Moil actually came from a conversation I was having with another filmmaker a couple years back, where we were waiting for a screening to start for another film, and he was also, I'm Jewish. He was also a Jewish filmmaker. He had grown up in Israel though, and was living in Europe at the time. And I was just trying to, like, you know, explain to him a bit about what it was like to have, I had recently moved to a smaller city that had a very, very small Jewish community. And I was just trying to explain to him what it's like to live in a city like that and still try and maintain the traditions when there is no real community around you. I mean, I'm not a religious guy. He's not a deeply religious guy, but, you know, because of family pressure and things like that, I still try to keep things going. And then one of the biggest things is that how in that community I lived in, if you want to perform a Brit Milah ceremony, which is the circumcision ceremony that happens in the film, you actually have to fly in a moil, which is kind of a crazy thing because most places where Jews live, like, they're everywhere, right? But in this situation, you have to fly one in. There's a lot of pressure around it. And that conversation ended up leading to, like, other crazy stories I had heard throughout the years about, like, you know, conversion to the religion or religion in general and a lot of themes. And by the end of the conversation, he just looked at me and he's like, "Man, you got to make a movie about this." And at first I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I really want to dive into religion. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? No one's ever really done anything serious about this kind of thing before. Like, usually when you hear Brit Milah, you think like the Seinfeld episode, right? The Moil, you know, where it's kind of like more of a joke. It's not taken seriously. So I thought it'd be interesting to approach it with the, you know, more of a, even though there's light moments in the film, more of a serious view at it. And, you know, and through it, I could explore themes that are, like, really important to me, you know, like the transactional nature of religion, things like that.
Thanks so much for sharing, all of you. So I just want to know, maybe from each of your perspectives, maybe like one little anecdote or something that during the shoot or during the prep of the film or even post kind of stuck out as a challenge. Like, what was one challenge? Not trying to make this a job interview or anything. I just want to know a little bit about the process. But yeah, anything that kind of was particularly challenging about making the film. Anyone can start. Christian.
Yeah, well, I can start. I would say one of the biggest challenges in this film was definitely like that we did like the scene of three girls pushing like a girl into like confronting this girl in the forest and trying to ask her out about this rumor, and they're kind of like planning on to attack her. And it's I think the scene is like 8 minutes long, and it was like, before we did it, I was also really attracted to doing the scene because I knew it was like really difficult and challenging as a director to do it. So it would be like I was sure that I could learn a lot from doing it, but at the same time, like it was really tough making some young girls like doing these things. And we had like, I think we spent 5 hours just shooting that scene, and we had like what do you call, like a person on set just to be there for the
Oh, like a
girls.
counselor.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's just intense to do these things, and it's like at the same time you just want it to be over right away, but you also want to make it good. So it's so, and you have to make sure that they are at such a they feel okay about everything that's happening, and it's all happening in their time and whatever it takes. So it's so I would say, like, in so many ways it's just difficult to do these kind of scenes. And So I feel like it was, I grew a lot as a director to like to do it, and to like find the, yeah. So it's I'm happy I did it, but I feel like always those kind of scenes is always like with a fear as well.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing scene. And I mean, obviously it's to me, it was like the most powerful scene of the film, and felt natural too, but at the same time, just to know kind of what went on behind it, there was a lot of work, and especially with the counselor there, I'm sure that was really helpful for the actors. So thanks for sharing.
Definitely. Of course.
Anyone else?
I can go next, but it's going to be quite a left turn from like that heavy, serious. That was just really amazing, especially having the counselor on set and everything. For me, I think like the pivotal scene in my film is that this mom finds her son's weed and gets high, starts kind of dancing around in the house and basically acting like a teenager again. So this was a real skeleton crew. I was prop master, set deck, everything. So I rolled all these joints with mugwort in them, which is like a totally safe herbal like prop replacement for weed, basically. I like stayed up super late to do them, worked really hard, and then we started shooting the scene and they weren't lighting enough for any kind of smoke to be on camera, which I didn't know before shooting this. You would need so much smoke for it to show up. So I was kind of panicking because it's a pretty important scene and we really didn't have time to kind of redo things. So I was sort of like looking around really frantically, and my first AC had a huge vape, like a just enormous rig. And so we ended up having to use that instead, just to like push smoke onto the screen and then have her hold like the prop joint. It was, yeah, kind of really on the fly, trying to make sure that my actress, Debbie, she's amazing, felt comfortable with all of that, because obviously you're talking about legal in California and Washington, but an illicit substance. So just trying to keep everyone's comfortability there, and also like make sure that arguably the most important scene like looked right on camera. And in the end, my cinematographer, Ivan Kamenko, he nailed it. It looks so good. So super happy that he hired an AC that also had a nicotine addiction, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I mean, that was pretty effortless, and you could not tell at all. I mean, just completely natural. So yeah.
Someone did ask me if she was really smoking weed, which I would never ask an actor to do.
Right.
It would be very difficult to get anything done. Yeah.
That would be almost a documentary, but
yeah, it really would.
She did a great job. She was awesome.
She's amazing.
Thanks for sharing. Leela, what about yours?
Yeah, I was thinking if I should tell about how to keep piranhas alive while shooting in a place where piranhas, it's not the natural habitat for piranhas. We're actually shooting in salt water. Or if I should tell a story about the day the whole car was like sinking in mud, and
oh my goodness,
for location scouting, or there's so many crazy stories, or how the actor on the first day of shooting, the guy who does the fisherman, in the first day of shooting, he's like, oh, there's just a little detail, I cannot swim.
oh my goodness.
So
how long was the shoot? The whole shoot?
5 days. Yeah, we had 5 days.
Okay. Wow.
Very intensive 5 days. But I think one of the most challenging things throughout the process of the film was not only in the shooting, but was finding the right measure for showing a monster deity in the film, because there's this, it's good you show a little bit, but not too much, and enough that you can project that image from your own perspective and imagination, but at the same time you do want a little bit of information. So it's been from makeup to shooting plans and to editing, especially. It's been a lot of trying around and showing too much, taking it back. So that, I think that was a very challenging part of the film.
All of the various logistics. It seems like there would be, especially with a lot of the outdoor, shooting, and you had a lot of night shots as well. So Wow. I mean, that sounds like a complete story in itself, the shoot. So thank you for sharing that. Charles, what about you?
I mean, same thing. There was a ton of challenges, right? Especially when wanting to try and keep a film like as authentic as we wanted it to be. We didn't want it to be a joke, right? So I mean, a lot of the biggest challenge was just like the research that went into it, and making sure the actors were really prepared. But like on a practical level, it was the baby, hands down, was the thing I was the most scared of going into the shoot. Like I've worked with babies before, I've worked with children many times, and it's and I have 2 kids, so it's a wild card. Babies and are nuts. So that was the thing, honestly, that terrified me, the crew, everybody the most, was because I wanted it, like I said, I wanted it to be authentic. So I actually like when a bris ceremony happens, the baby's supposed to be 8 days old, right? Like there was no way I was going to get a kid that young. I mean, it's against union rules anyway, nor would we want that anyway. But I was able to get a 3-month-old that was small for its age, so it looked younger. And yeah, so like, you know, we had to, you know, we had all the plans in place on how to deal with it. Like we had a separate room dedicated for the baby with its crib, everything, a person, like, you know, the guardian's always there with it. And we had one of those fake, like real life, like that look real babies, like, you know, from like the Clint Eastwood movie. Like we had one of those there that like we used as a stand-in, and it was going to be used in like wide shots if the baby started fussing. And honestly, all the fears were for nothing. Like the baby ended up being like the best baby ever. Like he never cried. Like never. He like the entire time we were shooting, it never cried. It just loved being held by people.
Was it awake? It was awake, right?
While we were shooting, yeah. Well, I mean, it
Yeah.
was so young, so it would like wake up for a bit, eat, go back to sleep,
Oh,
go up and go to sleep, and like everyone just loved this baby so much. So everyone like was like super happy to like hold it and like be around it. And the one time we wanted it to cry, which was during the ceremony, it cried instantly, because the moment you take off the, like you pull off like the, like you lift up the pants or anything on a newborn, because they get cold, they just start crying right away. So that was the only time we wanted it to cry, and it cried. But the rest of the time it was great. Like we were worried for nothing. Like I was very jealous of the parents actually, that they had a baby that acted so well.
that's awesome. Yeah, thank you all for sharing sort of like those challenges behind the shoot. I you know, it's always sort of this process where it's like we see the magic, the audience sees the magic, and of course as a filmmaker you want it to be seamless so that we don't notice any of that, but there's so much blood, sweat, and tears that go into all of that. So thanks for sharing. Okay, so we have only a few minutes left. I was just curious to see, to find out like from each of you, what is sort of like a current, or it could be just kind of like a long-standing inspiration to you as a filmmaker. So maybe a director or an actor who's an inspiration, or a writer, or, you know, what have you. But I was just kind of curious to see sort of who kind of stands out to each of you as an inspiration. Maybe Christian, you want to start?
Yes, here I am. I would say I think one of my biggest inspirations for many years has been Steven Soderbergh. I think it's in general like I like that he, in all his films, like I feel like he gets to create his own universe for the films, and at the same time I feel like he has such a clear voice in some way, like, and I like that I like to edit my own stuff as well, and I know that he does the same thing, and I feel like you can feel that in some of his, like he's really bold in some of his editing choices and stuff like that. So I guess yeah, that would be him.
Awesome. Anyone else? I can call on people. Liv, what about you?
I think I'm going to be the person that has 3, unfortunately. I really
more
love,
than one.
yeah, I really love Taika Waititi. I think that his films have such an impressionable footprint. You can see in every single one, no matter, I mean, his body of work is so different, but he just brings this light and humor and beauty and like real humanity to everything he makes. And I just think he's hilarious. He has a TED Talk that I watch every single time I question being a creative. Really like him. I really love Bong Joon-ho. I think that his understanding of space is incredible, and the worlds that he creates when he makes a film are just unbelievable. Like the way that a set of his works is just crazy. Like, I mean, one of my favorite fun facts is that they built the Parasite house like on a set for him, and they flooded a tank, and all that stuff was just amazing. I think to walk into an area and like understand exactly how to conceptualize angles and to block in your head like that is unbelievable. And then I love Werner Herzog. I really like, my other great love is documentary, and he is like the weirdest documentarian out there. He's such an interesting guy. I think his films are amazing. He made a film about Antarctica that was just like so weird and simultaneously like very depressing, but also super uplifting. And he managed to make Antarctica like a background for a really, really human film. And I thought it was incredible, because normally in a piece like that, the landscape takes center stage, and he was really able to bring the people who live there to the forefront. I thought it was incredible.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Leila?
That's a hard one, but there's so many people, so many different body of works. I think one very big inspiration for me, definitely in many of the works, which is a current, are myths. So more like this as a source of inspiration has been very present in different works of mine. I love Iranian cinema. I do find the work of Kiarostami and Aghshar Farhadi mesmerizing. I love the way Farhadi writes the scripts, and the way it's so character driven, and the way that the construction of the plots are not many-cased at all, and it's I just really love the writing of his movies. I love Andrea Arnold's films. There's just I also love the way she writes the characters, and I love the choices of casting, and I think she's also got that, even like if you speak about Fish Tank or something like that, it's really you are as an audience driven into a conflict in which you're not taking completely sides. You're really put in a situation to reflect upon, and this is a kind of writing that I admire a lot.
That's awesome. The inspiration is kind of from everywhere. And Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a similar boat. There's so many people. It's tough to answer. I mean, I guess one that kind of rises a little to the top would be my fellow countryman, Denis Villeneuve, right? I mean, I think, like, honestly, his run since Polytechnique to now is kind of unparalleled by anyone in the world. I think it's just been one incredible film after another. Like, even before he came to Hollywood, like even just his Canadian films from then on have been unreal. And I think he's got just an incredible command of the form and of storytelling, and how to really trickle down the information. And also, just like I said, as a Canadian, to see another Canadian be able to rise to the level that he has internationally is just very inspiring, right? Especially coming out of a market like Canada. It's thrilling to see that that's possible.
I just want to thank you all so much for, sharing your work, sharing, kind of all of that magical energy that goes into making that work. And I know it's a collaborative process too, but I'm sure in post there's a lot of alone time, right, where you're trying to figure things out too. So I know it's definitely like a labor of love. So thank you so much for sharing, and for being in this particular package. And I loved all of the films, and can take something away from each of them that's just very special. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing, and good luck with the rest of the festival circuit, and have a great rest of your day.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.